We're now going to be finding all of the remaining roots. We're going to start by using the one root that they gave us, so that means we're going to do synthetic division. So let's pull off our coefficients. 1, 1, negative 10, and 8. Everybody was there. And then my little box over here, I'm going to put negative 4, drop my arrow, drop my 1. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. 1 plus negative 4 is negative 3. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. Negative 10 plus 12 is 2. And negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Awesome. We got a 0. Now, I don't have any other roots, but I now know this went down a power. So I'm at x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. We're going to go ahead. This one looks like it's going to factor nicely. Pretty awesome. X and x, 2 and 1. They have to be the same sign, and they both have to be negative. So I continue to solve. X equals 2 and x equals 1. So your roots are x equals negative 4, x equals 2, and x equals 1. Go ahead, now pause the video, and you are going to work on this second one here. Great job. Okay, the answer should be x equals 1/2 and x equals negative 5. And always remember to state the root that they gave you. Okay, next page. All right, so now we have 2 is a 0 of x cubed minus 4x squared plus 8. So first, they're just being fancy with the lingo here and saying 2 is a 0. So that's what's going in our box. And then I'm going to put out my coefficients. 1. So I'm going to put my coefficients down here. I have the 1, the negative 4. Now there's no x term, so I need to leave that space by putting the 0 and then the 8. Drop the 1. Here we go. 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. 0 plus negative 4 is negative 4. And then multiply 2 times negative 4, I get negative 8. Yay, another 0. So then I write down x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. And I start to think about the factoring, and I go, oh, bummer. There's nothing that factors, so we're going to use the quadratic. So here we go, 2 plus or minus, because it was negative b, right? Negative right here. Then I have negative 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 4 all over 2 times 1. So I have 2 plus or minus 4. Negative is positive, plus 16 over 2. Keep it going here. 2 plus or minus radical 20 over 2. We, of course, want to be fancy, and we're going to simplify that radical. Let's just do a little arrow. So I will get 2 plus or minus. It breaks into 5 and 4, square root of 4. So 2 radical 5. I can GCF there, and I'll get 1 plus or minus radical 5. And again, don't forget the original root of the 2. Take a second now, pause the video. You try number 4. So, when you finish this one up, your answer should be x equals negative 1 plus or minus radical 2, and of course, the negative 1. Next page here. Okay, 2 more to do. So first up here, they said x minus 4 is a factor. That means you have to first change that to 4 is the root, and then I'm going to say 2, negative 8, 18, negative 72. Drop the 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. We end up with 0 here. That brings the 18 down. 4 times 18, oh, just magic, happens to be that 0. So So I get 2x squared. There is not an x term, plus the 18. You could do the quadratic, or you can solve this one. Excuse me. You're going to go through and get 2x squared equals negative 18. X squared equals negative 9. So when I take the square root, I get plus or minus 3i. The next one we have to do gives us 2 of the roots, which is helpful because you can see that it has the 4th power, which means I would have to go through twice so I can get down to the squared. You may also be thinking ahead here and look at this. Let's just do a little factoring, see how magical it could be. X squared and x squared, 3 and 4. I need them to be the same because it has to be positive and they both need to be negative. So x squared equals 3 and x squared equals 4. Take the square roots and x equals plus or minus radical 3 and x equals plus or minus 2. So we already know what the answers are going to be. Now let's just go through and do the synthetic as well. So you're going to start with, first, you have a negative 2 as a root, and then 1, 0 for the cube term, negative 7, 0 for the x term, and the 12. And I have 1 times negative 2 is negative 2, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, and then I'm going to get negative 3 times 2 is positive 6, drop the 6 down, and look at that, magical 0. Now, with the other root, I could go through and use it in this original quartic here, but I want to then use the other root. So this was negative 2, x minus 2 is going to be positive 2. You know, I'll use a different color. So I have 1 times 2 is 2, negative 2 plus 2 is 0, anything times 0 is 0, negative 3 times 2 is going to be negative 6, perfect, perfect, perfect. So we already see the plus or minus 2 that we were expecting, and then the x squared minus 3 equals 0. Move the 3 over and take the square root. You're going to get plus or minus radical 3. So that all matches up, which is awesome. And now just try this example number 7. Your answers should be the negative 1, the 3 that we already knew about, and negative 1 plus or minus I.